Sir Francis Drake. Born in 1940 England, Sir Francis Drake was on a mission. He learned everything he knew about boats from his father and decided to join the British privateers because he had one goal in mind: to circumvent the earth. Now, in 1577, Sir Francis Drake was set out on a quest to go blow up some Spanish ships. Simple enough, right? He gets his crew and they all get in his boat and they sail away. Little did Sir Francis Drake know, that day that he sailed away was the day that he was going to start his journey to circumvent the earth. Now, for those who don't know, circumventing the earth is essentially sailing around the earth. Pretty simple, right? No, it's not simple. It's 1577. Only one person has done this, and his name was Magellan. He died halfway across his journey. He never fully circumvented the earth, and up until then, everyone thought that it was just a stupid idea to try it. They didn't have the resources, and they didn't have the brains to figure out what to do to get around the earth. But Drake was different. He said, you know what, guys? We're gonna try and circumvent the earth. Of course, Drake only said this to his crew like 6 months into their journey, so they still had 2.5 years to go. The people, they weren't really happy with him, but he ended up going on with it anyways. Now armed with the Queen's support and money, Sir Francis Drake set out on his journey to go to the southernmost tip of South America. This is so that he could cross over and go back up to North America, where he would swiftly go around the globe, go down to Asia and land there for a second, go back down, cross some countries, head back up, and land in Europe. I'll post a map right here so that you guys can see what I'm talking about. Overall, he gets down and it was relatively simple. He lands in this place called Tierra del Fuego, where it's thought to be connected to South America. On all of his maps, it shows that Tierra del Fuego is this landmass that's connected to the southernmost tip, but he looks around and sees a bunch of oceans. Now, I don't know how you would react, but if I looked at a map and realized it was completely bogus, I would be pretty alarmed too. And Sir Francis Drake, being the man he is, decides to write all the map makers and the Queen of England and says, hey, you know, Tierra del Fuego is a bunch of islands, it's not a landmass, and it's not connected to South America at all. This was big news. This was one of his biggest discoveries across his journey and helped map makers for the future to remember that Tierra del Fuego is not a part of South America at all. He goes back up to North America, does a little journey and loop around, but on his way, he comes across several slave camps. Now, Sir Francis Drake and slaves had a little bit of a rocky relationship because in the time, having slaves was common and they weren't really respected. Now, Sir Francis Drake didn't really believe that they should have been that disrespected and ended up freeing a lot of slaves on his journey. Does this make him a good man? Well, now we gotta look at the things that he did wrong on his journey, starting with a lot of churches burned. Sir Francis Drake hated the Spanish people. He absolutely hated them. He blew up their ships. That was the whole point of starting his journey. And so whenever he'd come across a town inhabited by Spanish people, he would burn them down or torture them for treason. That's not very good. But when you look at the standards at the time of being a privateer or a guy with a crew who's trying to get on a journey around the earth, that's pretty common. I mean, it was common for people to blow up their enemies, and that's exactly what Francis Drake did. He blew up his enemies' ships and he burned down their churches. Overall, I would say Sir Francis Drake was honestly a pretty good man. He had strong morals at the time, and he was way ahead of his time with freeing a lot of slave camps that he found on his journey. This was uncommon for British people especially to do that, and really shows his morals. Now, we didn't know about Sir Francis Drake doing all of this till later when we got access to his journals, because Sir Francis Drake didn't tell anybody about this. He was worried that the Queen or whatever was going on in England would persecute him for his actions. Sir Francis Drake, he returned home a hero, and armed with the Queen's support, now being her new favorite child, decided to live a really calm life. He went on a few other journeys, but other than his big circumvention from 1577 to 1580, he didn't really do a whole lot. He just kind of sailed around, would occasionally blow up some more Spanish ships, and lived a calm life. He gave a lot of his treasure that he found to the Queen and was able to keep a decent amount of it, allowing him to just kind of stay rich and happy. So Francis Drake was quite honestly a hero, if we're being honest, to the people that he came across on his journey, but was a pretty bad man in some aspects. Now, I'd say Francis Drake was a pretty good man in history, and we should celebrate him for what he did and really the true first circumvention around the earth, considering that he beat Magellan's time by 7 years, and didn't die. So that's really all there is to Sir Francis Drake, the man with the dream to circumvent the Earth and get a lot of treasure. Great guy. Highly recommend you check him out, and thanks for watching.